question. It will end March 23rd, 2027 at 6:40 p.m. That's the official time that all of this ends, and everything will be peace and love and harmony. So just so you know, JP. No, but seriously, look, humans like hurting each other. Let me say that again so people really take it in. Humans like hurting each other. Okay, and part of being a parent and part of growing up and part of our educational system and part of our laws are all based around, okay, you have this urge to hurt somebody, don't do that. And you know what? 99% of the time, it works. Okay, when you look at the total percentage of people committing crimes in just the U.S., it's what, less than 1% of all people are incarcerated or have committed a crime. So generally speaking, we're doing a pretty good job. Okay, could we do better? Of course. But I say that to say that there will be people who always find some reason to be mean and to actually go about hurting other people, whether it's stealing their property, whether it's physically assaulting them, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So no, that's never going to be solved. And pointing out that, gee, his skin happens to be different than mine, whether it's a white person commenting about a black person or a black person commenting about an Asian person or Asian about white or Filipino against Japanese or Chinese against whatever it is, that's going to continue to go on. So it's something we will always need to be aware of. How we address that is another issue. And I think, JP, as you said, it's understanding that people are always going to think some fucked up shit, period. But it's taking action. It's when they take action. Now I'm going to put a little bit of nuance. There are times when saying those particular words can be interpreted as a kind of action. But generally speaking, and I'm talking 99.9999% of the time in this day and age, saying that word in particular is speech and nothing more. And we go back to sticks and stones may break my bones, but names will never hurt me. And I think that's a wise, put in a little kiddie form, it's still a wise thing. We understand that in a country that has free speech, if you don't believe that little kid's phrase, then you're in a lot of trouble because you're going to be torturing yourself constantly. Because people say a lot of dumb shit. And I at least understand when I've said dumb shit. Okay, but there are people who don't, and you have to give them grace because it's not about them. It's about you and your own peace of mind. And I think what JP and Anthony are talking about is they're not going to let people who say dumb shit upset their peace of mind.
Because most times you can't do nothing about it. It's in their brain. I mean, we could talk about it. We could argue about it. We could debate about it. And I love to debate. I love to argue. So yeah, I'll sit there and I will try to explain to you how what you're saying is illogical. And maybe I'll make a little change in the world, starting with you. But I have to speak to you first.
Good morning, Dope. How are you?
I'm good. I just became a member of the Muff. I don't know why I still got this pink ticket. Hold up. Let me see if it goes away. Wait. Man, fuck it.
If you just became a member, it'll be calling you next time in.
No one can say he's a virgin in the Muff.
We like our...
What if I was a virgin? What if I was a virgin? Are you anti-virgin?
Definitely not anti-version. Yeah, I don't know. Hey, Dips. How are we going? Hey, Mike. Hey, guys.
Hey,
Hey.
I wish I was a virgin, honestly.
Do you really?
I'm a born-again virgin.
Honestly,
I don't know like where you get a certificate for that, but like if there are cobwebs down there, then maybe that's enough.
That's what we call the manifestation of a new hymen row.
Oh, wow.
They're not cobwebs, okay?
They're not cobwebs?
No, I'm manifesting, okay?
Wait, is that even possible? I don't know. The hymen.
No.
Okay.
Under no
I'm like, there's no way.
Hymens do not grow back.
Even if a girl hasn't been touched down there for like 40 years, I cannot imagine
It does
that.
not grow back. Once the cherry is popped, it's popped.
But there's vaginal rejuvenation. That's what Cardi B was getting done.
Well,
Yes.
that's just tightening the muscles. That's a muscular thing. Now, I suppose if they wanted to sew it shut, they could. But regardless of that, I encourage this discussion of vaginas wholeheartedly, and we should explore this more.
Well, I mean, Alan, we are in the Muff, so
We are in the muff.
that is the purpose of it.
This is true. Just as long as we're not in Oprah's muff, as South Park so eloquently explored in their series.
Nobody wants to be in Oprah's muff.
That's nasty.
That is pretty nasty.
Way to go, Alan.
I just ate, guys. Come on, what's going on here?
But can you imagine that South Park got away with that? I mean, she was already a billionaire, and they had a whole series of shows about her and her vagina. Jesus. Yeah, Jay, exact.
Kristen's actually giving us some education on the hymens in the chat. If anybody would like to take a personal one-on-one session with Kristen to be able to learn some more about hymens, she's available for consultation. Thanks, Kristen.
Too thick to penetrate?
No, hymens are obstacles.
Yeah, that's true. I can
Let me just say, they haven't met me, you know? Yeah.
Well, oh my God. Well, let me just tell you, the manifestation of the new hymens is very real. Okay? I will never call them cobwebs.
Are we talking about hymens in the reference of like football or the other hymen?
The other hymen. We're in the muff, Jay Pizzy.
Wow.
We're in the muff.
I'm just messing with you. I know what you're talking about.
Morning derisive. I don't know if I said that to you yet or not, but there was convo going on. I didn't want to step over people.
Hi, good morning. First time caller, long time listener.
Nice to have you back.
Hey, Ro. Hey, everyone.
So I was listening to some conversation. For me, it was last night surrounding guns and mass shootings and stuff like that. It was actually a really good conversation. So Dibs, thanks for putting that together and holding that space. It was actually pretty cool. I like the idea of actually bringing in some alternate views
Yes.
from both sides and to be able to, have a conversation.
Yeah. I think it would be great. Yosh is such a fabulous speaker on the topic, and he's very, very pro 2A, and he's extremely knowledgeable about the laws and the Constitution around it. But I think that having some people that are really can very intellectually have the conversation about why, like, AR, potentially looking at like AR bands and stuff again, like just getting them kind of geeking out together, and Yosh is the kind of person I think he could have that conversation with anybody and it not go upside down. Yeah.
Like he and Roger sound like that actually be, fit in the same bed. Getting people outside of that who have got differing views. Look, I mean, I getting to people who are on literally opposite sides of the fence on this, can make for great fireworks, but it's the meat in between that really makes it an interesting, conversation where, there's movement, where there's concession that can be made that you don't have to be completely 2A.
That's what just happened, Ro. That's what just happened with racism. Just happened.
Yeah. But the thing of it is, I think JB might possibly know maybe another person or two, because he's very staunchly in the more gun law camp. And between Stilgar and Yosh, I think, and Mojo, if Mojo actually came back, I think that would be a great representation of, fewer restrictions. And then we just need 2 or 3 others that support the other camp and are knowledgeable enough to have, to make the arguments. I'd love to sit and listen to them just, ping pong back and forth.
Yeah, Sig would be a good one to have in that room for sure on one side.
Yeah.
Oh, by the way, I'm sorry if I cut through. It was either you cutting out or me cutting out, but I may have interjected there for a brief second.
Oh, okay.
No, not at all. Well, let's try and make it happen. Like, get a few people in here.
Yeah.
That'd be cool. Grab a few names. We could either do it in here or go into healthy debates about it, maybe.
Okay.
Whichever. Look, I mean, from an Australian's perspective, where we don't have the Second Amendment. There's nothing in our constitution about guns, per se. And it's a different history. Australia has a very different history to America when it comes to guns, and also Civil War as well. So there's some understanding, but what's been in the culture in America is a very different thing in Australia. So when the guns there was an amnesty for the guns to be handed in and so forth, it wasn't as much of a big deal as it would be in America. But I'm sort of leaning in the direction of, look, given that I have a window of understanding to why there is a social push and a cultural issue in terms of having guns, like from an Australian perspective, it's like, why do you need them? Like, we don't have them. The only time Australians have got guns is like if you're in the outback, you're on a farm, you need to be able to cull off, some kangaroos or get off some boars, whatever it might be. Then fine, it's necessary. But in terms of self-protection, it is not a thing. It never has been a thing in Australia. And it's never been part of our culture. So we just look and say, well, hang on, look at all these shootings that are happening in America. And unfortunately, it is just what we see in America. We see the mass shootings of innocent kids in schools and stuff like that. We go, hang on, surely there's got to be a way of minimising this. Why can't we just make restrictions a hell of a lot stronger so that guns don't get circulated as much? There's incredibly stringent rules and laws, pertaining to to the possession of getting firearms and so forth, and obviously you're going to have less instances of these happening as well. Anyway, that's broad stuff.
Two things. One, I was going to say you do need guns in Australia because kangaroos are like deer that have gone to prison, and they're hard asses. And secondly, it's all about the Second Amendment. 1,000% Second Amendment is the problem. There's absolutely no way we can get anywhere remotely close to what Australia is doing because of our Second Amendment. We have it in print, and it's just general enough that it can endlessly be argued. And because it exists, guns are guaranteed to us. And because guns are guaranteed to us, and because we let the cat out of the bag and brought out the same guns that the U.S. Marine Corps uses for everybody and their brother to buy one, there's no going back. There is no discussion to be had, Rollo. Honestly, there's no going back. There's none. The only discussion that could take place is stop selling more of them, of that kind. It's literally the only thing. There's nothing else that can take place.
Yeah, look, I mean, in terms of guns and kangaroos and shit like that, look, they can be a bit scary sometimes. Yeah, true. They're needed. They are needed, and they're utilised by farmers out in the outback and countryside and so forth, because there's a purpose for them there, and it's a practical purpose of it. And in terms of the restrictions, it's the same, I guess. Look, not everybody has the right to be able to drive a car, but you can get a license to be able to have one. And in order to be able to keep your license, you need to be able to follow certain rules. I don't see why those rules and that type of philosophy couldn't be applied, and be it slowly over a period of time, right, to stem the culture somewhat, not to change the culture completely, but to be able to stem the culture somewhat. Just the idea of had people feeling, right, the need, not the want, but the need to be able to have a gun for self-protection is just something that is completely foreign to people in Australia.
If we want to continue with guns, great. And I have something else, if you guys want to talk about it, that I was listening to on a podcast, a media criticism podcast the other day, which is, I thought was pretty funny. It's this consulting group think tank called the Third Way, which is described as a Clinton-esque Democratic consulting group that is trying to rein in the negative perception of the Democratic Party. They released a list of words that Democrats should stop saying because they alienate the general American public, and they say that by using these phrases, they're fueling the Republicans and Donald Trump. So it's like 4 categories of lists of words, if you guys want to hear.
I'm curious.
Okay. I'll take that as consensus permission to go ahead.
That's great. Mr. Rice, if you feel free, let's try this out and see how it feels.
Okay, so there's
We'll
4.
We'll touch on maybe the gun topic at another point in time. That's fine with me.
Thank you. You're very generous. So there's, I think, 4 categories. So the first is called therapy speak. And it says, these words say, I'm more empathetic than you, and you're callous, and you're hurting other people's feelings. So the words are privilege, violence, as in environmental violence, dialoguing, othering, triggering, microaggression, progressive stack, centering, safe space, holding space, and body shaming. And there's seminar room language, subverting norms, system of oppression, critical theory, cultural appropriation, postmodernism, Overton window, heuristic, and existential threat to climate, the planet, democracy, or the economy. Then there's organizer jargon, radical transparency, small d democracy, barriers to participation, stakeholders, the unhoused, food insecurity, housing insecurity, people who immigrated. Then there's gender orientation correctness, birthing person / inseminated person, which I had never heard, pregnant people, chest feeding, cisgender, dead naming, heteronormative, patriarchy, LGBTQIA+. Then there's the shifting language of racial constructs, Latinx, BIPOC, allyship, intersectionality, and minoritized communities. Finally, explaining away crime, justice involved, carceration, incarcerated people, and involuntary confinement. So it says the conclusion is, think about conversations with persuadable voters in your life, friends, family, coworkers, and consider whether the use of this language above would help or hurt your case. Recognize that much of the language above is a red flag for a sizable segment of the American public, and it's not because they're bigots, but because they fear cancellation, doxing, or trouble with HR if they make a mistake. Anyway, it goes on.
This is from the Democratic Party to the Democratic...
It's from a Democratic consulting group.
Yeah, it sounds 1,000% accurate, my take. It's just, it's full of things that we're tired of hearing.
I
think it sounds...
Like they're trying to...
It sounds really smart. It sounds like an outsider. Yeah, the reality is, are Democrats going to listen? Probably not. But as an outsider, that person's right on.
First of all, that entire list I need to go to my safe space.
Go take a shower, Alan. Go take a shower.
Just hearing those words, just sent me over the edge. What's interesting, though, is they're saying don't use these words or phrases, but they're not saying change the underlying philosophy that these phrases have come to represent. So it's, if I'm understanding it correctly, derisive, is that the thing? In other words, we still believe these things. We're just advising you not to use them if you are trying to, and that was, that's clear. When you're persuadable voters. So that also implies that, well, there's just some people that which is not an unreasonable thing to say is, look, there's some people you're never going to convince, so don't bother with them. But yeah, I mean, I don't know that qualifies them as Clinton-esque Democrats either, because a Clinton-esque Democrat, and I guess as someone who voted for him, I can tell you, you cannot use those words. I'm still going to pick up on whether or not you believe in the underlying philosophies.
I had never heard inseminated person before to describe a pregnant woman. That sounds even more dehumanizing than birthing person.
I actually think that's very liberating when I see a woman and I say she's been inseminated. It's just like, wow. Look at this inseminated person. Like, it sounds like so... Gosh, the patriarchal standards of our society have been removed.
What about inseminated men? Like after the act of coitus, like what do we do about those guys?
Do you know what's funny? The podcaster I was listening to who originally brought up that list, he's like, "Well, that applies to gay guys too."
Yeah, totally. What's funny is, and you just said it, Dope, that if you actually walked up to a woman who was pregnant and said, "Oh, you must be so happy to be an inseminated person." When she was done pummeling you, her husband, assuming she's married, would then proceed to pummel you as well.
Congratulations on being inseminated.
it's like it's the language that people use to describe cows, when they're breeding cows or horses, and yes, now as women or even dogs for that matter. And yes,
haven't been. Sorry, my bad.
No, go ahead.
It has been used with women, like artificial insemination is a thing that when they use toward women. But it do sound odd the way that it's used, though, but it has been used toward humans for a long time.
Yeah, but I would say even then, Hikima, that's the clinical term. But then once they become pregnant,
It's the past tense part. It's the past tense part that's problematic.
Yeah, once they become inseminated, we don't say, well, how's your insemination going? Do you have post-insemination morning sickness?
Regret.
Well, it's so funny, derisive. That's,
I'm teasing.
If I could be more serious, though, I think it's good that more Democrats are realizing that this type of stuff is just cringeworthy. And I love being proved right. Like a year ago, before the election, there was a lot of Democrats on this app saying, "Oh, the right focusing on the woke stuff. They don't they're not in touch with the voters. Voters don't care about the fact that we say dumb shit like that." Well, I mean, obviously, the average person is not going to be thinking about that as much as they'll be thinking about gas prices or the economy. But when they see a purple-haired woman with her armpits unshaved talking about, pregnant men and how we need to watch our language because we're insulting people because we understand basic biology, people are not going to get down with that, It's like if the Republican Party was filled with a bunch of Westboro Baptist church members and that was the general perception of the Republican Party, even if the economy is doing great, people would not necessarily be the biggest fans of the Republican Party. It's just logic. I don't understand why it took so long for them to understand. And now I'm happy that they do understand.
Well, but again, Dope, I would say what their focus of that list is simply on the words. They're still adhering to the underlying beliefs or political positions that those particular words represent.
Yeah, without a doubt.
Yeah, so they still believe that what they're saying is, well, we still believe that a pregnant woman is simply an inseminated person, or that a mother feeding her child, that we should refer to them as a chest feeder, and that anybody, including both men and women, can breastfeed under our definition of what a man and a woman is, but just don't use those words so that we can convince them that we're right.
Oh, yeah, I'm not saying that they're changing their entire philosophy. I'm just saying they understand the optics of it is trash, which they were denying only 7 months ago.
Yeah, I would tend to agree. It's just essentially, it's the greatest blow. The Democrats, of course, will say that there are for women's rights on abortion, but when it comes to a biological male competing in women's sports, that they were this might be something we can pass sometime.
Yeah, this is, there's going to be a big market for this kind of pragmatic strategy for the Democrats in the next election because they just need to work on their electability, and that's, I'm surprised it hasn't happened sooner.